Ever been out there, just absolutely beat, needing a safe place to stop, and everywhere you look, it's completely full. It's an awful feeling, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's frustrating for anyone, but for truck drivers, it's pretty much a constant battle. These are the folks keeping everything moving day and night.
Absolutely delivering everything we rely on. But the job, well, it comes with some really tough challenges that most people just don't see.
And that's what we're diving into today. We're looking at the current state of trucking, some new developments, some persistent issues that really hit drivers hard.
Right. We'll cover things like infrastructure investments, what's happening with the freight market, some rule changes, and the big topics like pay and who's going to drive these trucks in the future.
Our goal here is simple. Unpack all this, give you a clear picture of what's really going on from different angles. We'll share some interesting facts, see how it affects your daily life, and hopefully offer some useful insights.
Yeah, get past the headlines and see the real impact. Okay, let's kick off with that big one, parking, or the lack of it. It's more than annoying. It's genuinely dangerous sometimes. But it looks like Florida is making a move.
That's right. Florida's putting down some serious cash, $180 million to add 917 new truck parking spots. This is along the I-4 corridor in Osceola, Seminole, and Volusia counties.
Okay, 180 million, 917
Yeah.
spots.
And it's not just pavement. It includes 3 completely new rest area facilities. So high-capacity parking, but also driver amenities, which are crucial. Construction's supposed to run from 2025 to 2028.
917 spots, it sounds like a decent number, maybe. But then you look at the scale?
Exactly. Perspective is key. On I-4 alone in Florida, you're talking over 30,000 truck trips every single day,
Wow.
and nationally. The shortage is estimated somewhere between 40,000 and 50,000 spots needed every night.
So 917 spots. It's helpful, but it's like getting one bottle of DEF when your tank's empty.
Yeah.
It's not getting you very far.
It's a good analogy. It's a start, definitely welcome, but it
Right.
doesn't solve the whole problem. Not even
Yeah.
close. But the interesting thing is how not having these spots creates all these other problems, right? It's not just driver stress.
Oh, absolutely. It cascades. Delays searching for spots, getting fined for parking illegally because there's nowhere else, being forced to shut down early. That all adds time and cost.
Which ultimately hits shippers, brokers, businesses, and, yeah, us as consumers.
Right. So even adding these 917 spots, while seemingly small against the huge need, it does help grease the wheels a little bit. Less wasted time, potentially safer roads.
Okay, so Florida's adding some spots. What about really tough places like, say, New York City?
Ah, yes. NYC.
Yeah.
Always a challenge. They actually just passed a pretty significant bill. It requires overnight truck parking in designated industrial zones.
Industrial zone, so like near the warehouses.
Exactly. Likely between midnight and 6 a.m. in boroughs like Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, where a lot of that freight activity happens.
It's huge because drivers going into the city, they've been getting hammered with fines for years, haven't they?
Oh, massively. We're talking hundreds of dollars a day, 200, even 400 bucks, because there weren't legal places to park overnight.
So you're forced to park illegally, risk a huge ticket, or shut down way earlier than you should, losing hours and money.
Precisely. It impacts safety, fatigue levels, everything. Drivers hate it, obviously. But then you have residents who, understandably, don't want trucks idling outside their windows all night.
Yeah, that's the classic conflict, isn't it? The not in my backyard or NMBY thing.
It really is. You might have suitable land, but local pushback stops anything from happening. Plus, warehouses often won't let trucks park on their property overnight. Liability issues, they say.
So the drivers step in the middle, break the law, or lose time and money?
And those fines. They hit smaller carriers and owner-operators the hardest. A few $1,000s in tickets can be devastating. Big fleets might just see it as a cost of doing business.
And what about tech? Everyone talks about parking apps.
Apps are great if there are actual spots available. They can't create parking out of thin air, you know?
Right. So how's the industry reacting to this NYC mandate?
Generally positive, actually. Groups like OOID, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, and other driver advocates are definitely applauding it. They want more, naturally, but see it as real progress.
It's a step, even if it takes time to figure out the details and roll it out fully.
Exactly. It shows someone who's trying to address this core daily struggle. It matters for safety, for their livelihood, for just having some peace of mind.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Talk about the money side, the economy. We've been hearing about a freight recession for a while now.
Yeah, it's been tough. Rates were falling. Some carriers, unfortunately, had to close up shop. It was a definite downturn.
But then the Senate passed this huge infrastructure bill, the mega bill.
That's the one.
Yeah.
A really massive piece of legislation. Over $400 billion being poured into highways, ports, rail.
And not just concrete and steel, right? There's
Mm.
money for other things.
Oh, yeah. Significant funds for green fleet incentives. Think electric or low-emission trucks. Money for workforce training, like expanding CDL programs, maybe retention bonuses, and also for digital supply chain tech.
Digital tech, like better tracking, maybe cutting down wait times.
That's the idea, modernizing things. And Wall Street definitely paid attention.
How so?
Well, stocks for major logistics players, J.B. Hunt, Old Dominion, Knight-Swift, FedEx, UPS, they all jumped pretty significantly. It signals this feeling of optimism, maybe that the worst of the freight recession is over.
Okay, Wall Street's happy, but what does this actually mean for you, the driver, on the road?
Well, the hope is straightforward.
Mm.
More infrastructure spending, more goods moving.
Mm-hmm.
That could mean more freight available.
Which could mean better rates and more steady work.
Could, that's the key word. Rates haven't exactly shot back up across the board yet. It's maybe the first ripple, but not the full wave. Drivers still need to be smart, hustle, manage their business carefully.
And are there, like, hidden downsides or catches to this big bill?
Potentially. With big government money often comes more oversight. So expect more scrutiny on things like emissions, tracking, compliance.
Ah, right. And who gets the money first?
Likely the larger fleets. They're better positioned to apply for grants, get financing for new green trucks, that sort of thing. Smaller carriers, owner-operators, they might need to be really proactive to tap into these funds.
And that digital tech, more tracking.
That's the concern some drivers have. More tech could mean more monitoring. ELDs already track a lot. Is this going to add another layer? Tracking bathroom breaks, maybe? It raises questions.
The big question is always, will the money actually trickle down? Will the independent driver, the single truck owner-op, really see the benefit?
That's the $1 million, or rather $400 billion question. And this bill, beyond just freight volume, could really shift power dynamics. Big investments in green tech and digital systems might help larger fleets consolidate even more, potentially making it tougher for the little guy to compete.
So it lifts some boats, but maybe swamps others.
Could be. The green transition's a good example. Great opportunity if you can afford the new tech, but a threat if your older truck gets phased out or needs expensive upgrades.
So execs are happy, tech companies see opportunity.
And drivers are kind of cautiously optimistic, saying, okay, sounds good, but I'll believe it when I see the rates go up and stay up.
Makes sense. This bill definitely shapes the work, the pay, and the rules you operate under.
Absolutely.
Speaking of rules and oversight, Wisconsin's doing something interesting, right? This trooper in a truck thing.
Yeah, that's got some attention. Basically, they have undercover state troopers riding shotgun in unmarked commercial trucks.
Seriously. In a regular-looking semi.
Yep. And from that higher vantage point, they're looking for distracted driving, texting, etc. in other vehicles, both cars and other trucks.
And what happens then? They pull them over from the truck?
No, they radio ahead to a marked patrol car nearby, which then makes the actual traffic stop.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them a better view to spot violations. Tennessee and Florida have similar programs, so it's not just Wisconsin.
Huh. So maybe think twice before you adjust your radio too much.
Or scroll through your phone, definitely. The message is, assume you could be watched at any time. That truck beside you might just have law enforcement inside.
How are drivers reacting? I imagine it's mixed.
Very mixed. Some truckers actually support it. They're tired of seeing dangerous, distracted driving from cars and want more enforcement.
Okay, I can see that.
But others see it as just another way to get ticketed, a gotcha tactic. And some feel kind of betrayed, especially if their own company allows troopers to ride along without telling the drivers.
Yeah, that raises questions about company policy. Do drivers have a right to know if that's happening in the truck they're driving?
It's a valid point. The main takeaway, though, is increased scrutiny. Stay compliant, phone-mounted, hands-free, signal your moves. It directly impacts your potential for fines, your CSA score, your job security.
Always got to be on your game. Okay, let's shift to something fundamental. Fair pay. Specifically, overtime.
Ah, the big one. Most truck drivers, as you know, don't get paid overtime after working 40 hours a week.
Why is that? It seems strange compared to most jobs.
It goes back, way back, 85 years, to the Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA. There's an exemption in there specifically for motor carriers.
85 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And OOIDA, the owner-operator group, is pushing hard now for Congress to repeal that exemption. They're arguing it's about basic fairness, reducing driver fatigue, and helping keep drivers in the industry.
Because drivers work way more than 40 hours, huh?
Oh, easily. 60, 70 hours a week is common. But they're often paid by the mile. So
Mm.
all that time spent waiting at a shipper or receiver, fueling up, doing inspections, that's often unpaid time.
So you could work 70 hours but only get paid for, say, 50 hours of driving.
Exactly. Drivers feel like they're working for free for a big chunk of their week.
Yeah.
Imagine putting in 70 hours at your job but only getting paid for 40 or 50 because the other time doesn't count. It's frustrating.
I bet. What's the pushback? Why hasn't it changed?
Well, some large carriers argue they can't afford to pay overtime, despite often reporting significant profits. Shippers and brokers who kind of benefit from drivers not being paid for wait times tend to be pretty quiet on the issue.
And drivers themselves, are they all for it?
Mostly, yeah. You have some older, maybe more traditional drivers who worry about more regulations in general, but most younger and mid-career drivers, they just want to be paid fairly for all the hours they actually work.
It seems like a straightforward fairness issue.
It really does. It's about respect, economic stability, and it's a huge factor in why driver turnover is so high. Fix the pay, maybe you fix the turnover.
And that turnover problem connects directly to the next generation, right? A whole Gen Z issue.
Absolutely. We've got a wave of baby boomer drivers retiring, a huge amount of experience leaving the industry.
And Gen Z, born what, late 90s to early 2010s, they aren't exactly lining up to take those seats?
Not nearly enough of them. Enrollment in CDL schools is actually down. That's a massive red flag for the future of the supply chain.
So why the lack of interest? Is it just the long hours and time away from home?
That's a big part of it, definitely. The perception is long hours, maybe not great pay for those hours, and zero work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more than that, too.
Like what?
Tech is a factor. If a young person gets into a truck and the systems feel ancient, like Qualcomm and maybe even fax machines are still involved, that's a turnoff for a digital native generation.
Right. They grew up with smartphones.
Exactly. And the lifestyle. It's a tough sell compared to gig work or remote jobs that offer flexibility. Plus, there's a growing awareness and concern about mental health. The isolation and potential burnout in trucking are real deterrents.
So the industry can't just throw money at it.
Not entirely. Just raise pay helps, obviously. But it's not the whole solution for Gen Z. They often look for purpose in their work, flexibility, clear opportunities to advance. They value their well-being and relationships differently, perhaps, than previous generations did.
So the old recruitment playbook needs a rewrite.
A total reboot, really. It's not that they're lazy. They just have different priorities and expectations.
Are any companies getting it right? Adapting?
Some are, yeah. They're trying innovative things. Strong mentorship programs, better remote support for drivers, providing mental wellness resources, using more modern training tech like VR simulators and apps.
Using social media, maybe? Driver influencers?
That too. Connecting where Gen Z actually hangs out. And exploring different work models, maybe weekend-only routes, or strictly local gigs that allow for more home time.
It sounds like the industry needs a fundamental shift in how it views and treats drivers.
It really does. This isn't just about filling seats. It's about making trucking a sustainable, respectful career choice for the long haul. It affects everyone currently driving too, because a shortage just puts more pressure on them.
So we've talked parking, economics, oversight, pay, the future workforce, all these different pieces. How do they all connect? What's the big picture here?
Well, when you put it all together, the daily parking struggles, the economic uncertainty, the increased scrutiny, the fight for fair pay, the challenge of attracting new drivers, it paints a picture of an industry at a really critical point, a crossroads.
And the direction it takes depends heavily on how it treats its drivers.
Absolutely. Drivers are the essential core.
Right.
And while changes from government or new rules are important, maybe the biggest impact comes from drivers themselves, like Hervey from Life. As a trucker often says, it's about seeing these issues from all angles.
Being informed, but also empowered.
Exactly. Knowing what's happening, but also thinking about what you can control, what you can do for your own future and well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a ton today. Parking battles, the mega bill's potential impact, troopers and trucks, the overtime fight, the Gen Z gap.
Yeah, a real deep dive into the shifts and challenges.
And through it all, the constant is the driver's essential role, which leads to maybe a provocative thought. What if the biggest shift needed isn't just what the industry does for drivers, but what drivers can start doing for themselves, especially with that valuable off-duty time?
That's a powerful idea. Because let's face it, the system, the regulations, the infrastructure, they often lag behind the reality on the ground. Changes can be slow.
So you can't always wait for things to get better.
Right. So managing your time becomes critical. Not just managing it for the shipper or the broker, but managing it for yourself. Proactively building maybe a safety net or even an exit plan for down the road.
How do you mean, like learning new things?
Yeah, exactly. Using some of that off-duty time, maybe while waiting or during resets, to learn new skills. Thinking about ways to build some online income, something separate from the truck.
To protect yourself from those freight rate swings or if things get tough in the industry.
Precisely. Creating options for yourself. There are resources out there to help you think about retiring on your own terms, protecting your future, even if, the company you drive for suddenly isn't around anymore.
Where can folks look for that kind of help or information?
Well, for instance, retirefromtrucking.com has a free guide and even some AI tool training focused on building those future income streams. And for connecting with other drivers, getting real-world advice, lifeastrucker.com is a great community resource.
Good resources to check out because ultimately it comes back to that core idea, right?
Yeah, you're not just moving boxes or loads of freight. You're absolutely essential, the backbone of the economy, and you deserve to feel respected, supported, and ultimately in control of your own future.